welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do after dark. It's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
All right, welcome in. It is the Field of 68 after dark on a Wednesday. I'm Chris Childers, coming off of the VCU New Mexico game right here on the Field of 68. Great to have that game. And really excited to be here. We had a fun night of basketball, the Big East underway, some interesting results. Had a heck of a game earlier that went into overtime with the back-to-back defending champions finding a way to take out Xavier. Great night, though. We had the Jordan game. Alabama on the road against North Dakota got a scare in a true road game. So a fun night of basketball. We have Rob Dauster, the great Field of 68 wordsmith. We have Mike LaTulip from Illinois fame and North Carolina star big guy John Henson to break it all down tonight. Gentlemen, I'm Chris Childers, and it's great to be with all you guys. This was a fun night in the Big East. We were all sitting there texting, watching UConn and Xavier go at it in the Big East. Both teams opening night in the league, and UConn finds a way in overtime. They get it done. Alex Karabin, 20 points in the win for Danny Hurley and the Huskies. It was kind of the length, the defense that got it done at the end for UConn. Just a little bit too much for Xavier in the last 5 minutes, but Rob Dauster, a really entertaining way to kick off the Big East tonight for both teams.
Yeah, that was a fun basketball game, man. Fun fact, that is the first time since 1995 that UConn has won a Big East home opener in Hartford, and it's the first time since 2003 that they have won a conference home opener in either Gamble or in Hartford. I thought that it was an incredible performance of shot making from Xavier. Like, shout out to Dante Maddox and shout out to Ryan Conwell. Those dudes hit some ridiculous shots in the second half. At one point, they hit 8 straight threes in the second half. I think they were 9 for 13 from 3 in the second half and in overtime. That was an unbelievable performance from Xavier, and they needed that because UConn kind of got rolling a little bit. My biggest takeaway, there are 2 things from this game. One, Terrace Reed, 20 points, 13 boards, 4 offensive rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks. He's the dominant post presence that UConn needs and the guy that they need offensively. He's the anchor. He's the guy that could take the pressure off of some of the guys on the perimeter when he gets going a little bit. And Liam McNeely is, to me, the most important player on this team because of what he can provide as a secondary creator and as a secondary ball handler. And I'll tell you guys this much. If UConn's going to get this level of shooting from solo ball, this kind of performance from Liam McNeely, and Hassan Diarra, 12 points, 11 assists. He's had 41 assists and 8 turnovers during this 5-game winning streak. Henson, I know you're a hip-hop fan, right? You were at J. Cole the other night? Did I see that right?
Yeah, I was. Yes, sir.
Are you a Lil Wayne guy at all?
I'm a Lil Wayne guy.
Of course,
my favorite song off the Carter 3 is. You know what my favorite song off the Carter 3 is? Right there, 3-peat. Been listening to that nonstop for the last 2 hours. We're on track, baby. We're on track.
3-peat, yeah, maybe. But I don't know, man. 3-peat, they I don't think they have the depth of 03. That's just my opinion. Obviously, there's starters or guys that are the ones that Coach Hurley's playing the most. I like McNeely for them because he's an offensive creator. The actions they run for him kind of opens up everything else for everybody else. And then even with Terrace Reed Jr., I thought he should start when I saw game 1. I think he should stay in the starting lineup and stay playing 30 minutes a game. He's really good. He's really physical down there. Caravan hits open shots when he needs. Solo balls hitting shots to yard. They are rolling right now with their first five. Now, off the bench is going to be an issue because they're going to need more than five guys to be, as you so-called, a three-peat, the Lil Wayne song. But for the most part, this isn't a pesky Xavier Musketeers team. They should have beat Cincinnati. They kind of blew that at the end. Even today, they had the game kind of
won back-to-back road games.
And so they're a team that they're not going to roll over. So this was a nice, tough, hard-fought win. And as you know, when conference play starts, man, the games get tougher. It was a nice to see them pull this close game out. I think this is going to help them as a team in the future.
And they're hot. As we talk about UConn's win over Xavier, I mean, that's a team that was on that 3-game losing streak when they lost to Memphis and Colorado and Dayton back to back to back. And then if you look at since that game, they kind of had that palate cleanser against Maryland Eastern Shore, beat Baylor to close game, won on the road against Texas, beat Gonzaga, beat Xavier. So they've had some games here where they've been tested and they found ways to win. I mean, most notably, beating Gonzaga certainly is a big feather in the cap. So, I mean, Mike, when you look at them, I know we have Dauster over here. He's jamming over to three-peat. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I mean, I get John questioning the depth, and certainly that is a factor for Dan Hurley moving forward. But, this is a team like tonight, finding, scratching, clawing, and the athleticism mattered at the end.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we can say for certain is it looks a hell of a lot different than it did 4 weeks ago in Maui. It just does. I mean, Rob, you and I were on here after those games talking about just the mental mistakes, the lack of attention to detail. And to me, I mean, we'll start with this game tonight, and then I'll branch out a little bit. But that second half was one of the better, collective offensive displays I think I've seen in a while. Just the shot making, like the heater that Maddox went on, the heater that Xavier went on collectively. And then you look down, you're like, oh wait, UConn shooting 70% in the second half. So their offensive ability to stay in games like that, despite a team going nuclear, is why, I won't go as far to say three-peat, but that's a team that can get to a Final Four. And so, when you look at the game tonight, like, I love the fact there was no panic from them, that when Xavier went on their 3-point barrage, UConn said, hey, we're not going to try to match them. We're going to stick to doing what we do best, better than anybody in the country. They finish at a higher rate than anybody in the country inside the arc. And it's from their ball movement. It's from their player movement. And I thought Taurus Reed was terrific tonight, finishing around the rim. When they get Liam McNeely going downhill. Going back to the Texas game, right? Because I think people would point to the Baylor game as like exhale, like, man, UConn kind of feels like they're back. I mean, you guys know there's a number of people on this show that know when you get that first win on the road, when you like them going to Texas and really giving it to them, like really giving it to them. That's when I felt like they really had that kind of UConn shit to them that they've had over the years, like the Dan Hurley shit to them, the chip on your shoulder. And a lot of it starts with Liam McNeely. Because I think you're hard-pressed to find many freshmen in the country. There's a really talented freshman class in the country. But out of all those guys, that dude maybe has the biggest competitive spirit to him. And I think he gets compared to Cam Spencer, right? And you heard that on the broadcast. Your first thought is, hey, the offensive ability, all that. It's the fire he plays with. And I think it's contagious. Caravan plays that way. And I think those guys, it's just permeated. And the more he's gotten involved, the better things are. And we saw when he was out of the game tonight, from the 6.5-minute stretch to the 1.5-minute stretch in the second half, like, it looks different. In the first half, it looked different when he's not out there. And then he comes back in, he huddles everybody up around the free throw line and calls out a play. And the play on the other end, right when he came in the game with a minute and a half left, was a stagger away into a dribble handoff, get downhill layup. Like, they trust him. The staff trusts him. The guys around him, despite him being the young guy, they trust him. And that's why, like, it is crazy to think this is the same team that was in Maui 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. And look, you made a great point the last time that we were on about guys adjusting to the roles and adjusting to a new situation and a new level of expectation, right? Everybody on this roster is in a different situation than they were a year ago. And I think that those guys have all adjusted. But to me, it's Liam buying into this idea that he is the second creator on this roster. So much of what they do, you mentioned the dribble handoff, Henson, you mentioned the actions that they put Liam McNeely in. That takes the pressure off of Hassan Diarra to let him just kind of be the guy that makes up for everything else. Thrive in transition if you're Haas, right? Be able to get in those ball screens, and when it's open, make it happen at the end of a clock. But it's not all on him. Liam's able to kind of open that stuff up. It opens up the playbook. And, he had a couple where he's coming off of those curls, and he's just coming in the lane, and it's like you're playing 2-on-1 against the big guy, and he made the right decision every single time. Back-to-back games, no turnovers, 8 assists, no turnovers with the amount of time he has the ball in his hands. He did not look like a freshman, Henson. He did not look like a freshman at all to me.
No, he didn't, John. He didn't look like a freshman at all.
I'm with you. Yes, he was the ball.
Well, Rob, we talked
about
about it.
Yeah,
we talked about it
Mike.
after Maui. Like, this dude, however much he feels like he's getting involved, it needs to be more. And I think they recognize that. Getting him in those actions, he's you talked about it. Like, the maturity to his game at this age is crazy. It's why I think any of those teams that are going to be sitting in the lottery for the draft, I mean, that's he may not be like a top 5 guy, but shoot, you look at like 7 through the back half of the lottery, like that's a guy that can add value pretty quickly, I think, to a team with his size, the combination of skill, his ability to shoot the ball. Obviously, I mean, and then I talked about his competitive spirit as well. It's just, and to think that, like, we're talking about him, and they have some of these other guys. They have Caravan. How Diarra's emerged, like, has kind of made Mahaney just disposable. And then the length that they have on the wings as well. Solo Ball is a guy that I know we just touched on a little bit at the beginning. They got real pieces. And what I mentioned after Maui was like, hey man, get used to being dependent on. You guys got to get used to being dependent on. Spencer's gone, Newton's gone, Klingen's gone, Castle's gone. It's on you guys. And I feel that watching them now is like they are taking ownership of their roles. They're taking ownership of this team. And man, in a Big East where it feels like it's maybe a 2-horse race, like I think they may be in pole position.
Very well could be, and they know how to win, and they've done it the last couple of years with Dan Hurley. They win tonight, 94-89. I know we got to move on, and Dagan says, there's other games to talk about. I do want to make one point though. And I just want to make it because, I know you guys live in this basketball world every single day. I just want to let the world know the value of Dan Hurley and what he has meant to college basketball. He's the kind of guy, he's become such a villain and such a polarizing factor that he's getting the casual person hooked on college basketball a little bit earlier. I mean, he's kind of been the story with his antics and his whining and his craziness and all that. But just that I'm telling you, he's getting people's eyeballs on college basketball earlier than ever. And I think he's been an absolute benefit. And he's one of those guys. I mean, I'm sitting there tonight. He's such a pompous, loud, dude, but he's a great villain. And I'm rooting my ass off against him. And I think the world is. I mean, you want to see him lose. So I think certainly he's added a great value to the game.
Not Rob. Rob doesn't want to.
Not Rob. Rob's in love. Rob probably roots for Darth Vader in Star Wars too. He's probably one of those guys who was rooting for Kylo Ren in the dark side. Anyway, let's talk about Marquette. They beat Butler tonight, 90-70. They get a nice win. They committed just 2 turnovers in the victory, so they took care of the basketball really well at home in Milwaukee. This Marquette team certainly had high expectations going into the year. They have lived up to them up to this point. John Henson, when you look at Marquette, a clean game, like I mentioned, only 2 turnovers. What jumped out about the Golden Eagles as they improved to 10-2 tonight?
Well, it's kind of the Cams Jones show that everybody falls in line. They worry me, sometimes in the sense of Cam Jones and Joplin combined for, was it 44, 51 of their 75 field goal attempts. So you worry about if those two guys aren't able to make shots or they get shut down, which will happen eventually this year. What do they do and where do they go? But I just love how Marquette just keeps fighting. They'll be down 2 or 3 points. They'll be down a couple possessions. You look down, you text on your phone, they're up 7. Like, that's the type of team they are. They jump on you, and when they get on you, there's no way to get them off your back. And so I love their style of play. Shaka Smart obviously is a guy that, Marquette just fits his billing, man. Like, not really spoken about, maybe a little underrated as a school. Even a home court advantage, I think, is a little underrated at Marquette at Fiserv. And they're going to be, in that 2-horse race in the end. I'm leaning more UConn from a perspective of just, I believe they're a more talented team. But with Cam Jones kind of leading the horses, this team will be a team to be reckoned with as the season goes on. And, I just can't get over how good Cam Jones is, man. He's a force.
He is a force.
I think that with Marquette, my concern, and I said this after the Dayton game, is you need more than just Cam, right? Like, there's going to be a night when he has kind of an off night, when he's not able to. I think he started tonight. He was like 4 for 16 at one point, 5 for 16, and then kind of caught fire late, and that's when Marquette made their run. If you look at the Dayton game, I said this the other day, they were up by 13 early in the second half. He picks up his third foul with 18 minutes left. He goes to the bench. Immediately, Dayton goes on a 12-2 run. They cut the lead to 3. Cam Jones comes back in at the under 16 timeout, but the damage was done. That place was rocking, 15,000 people going nuts, and Marquette just could not get control of the game again. And look, David Joplin was 4 for 17 tonight. As a team, Marquette was 6 for 30. They still found a way to win against the Butler team that's not really all that good, but that's my concern, is that they're a little too reliant on one guy. So I think they need that supporting cast to step up. And I do think that getting Sean Jones back when he returns from his ACL, which should be coming here pretty soon, will give them another guard that can kind of take over lead guard duties. You won't lose anything defensively because he's an absolute ball hawk. And it will allow Cam to have, like, you don't have to take him out of the game, but it'll give him 5-6 possessions where you can just kind of stand off on the side and play off the ball, maybe run off of a screen here, so you can kind of get that rest without actually sitting down and getting rest. And I think that was a big thing with, when they didn't have Tyler Kolek last year. I think you saw that a little bit. That was the value of having Cam and Tyler on the floor together. So that's what I'll kind of be looking for. But to me, like, who's going to win the Big East between Marquette and UConn? Well, I would assume that Marquette's probably going to win their home game when they face off, and UConn's probably going to win their home game when they face off. So who doesn't have a dumb loss? Who goes to Creighton and finds a way to win, right? Who avoids having a game like a Xavier opponent that goes absolutely nuclear and finds a way to win on their home court, right? Who avoids those kind of losses is going to be who ends up winning, because both those
your
teams
gut UConn, Mr. Three-Peat? Is your gut UConn?
If I'm playing Marquette, I'm going to use the Dame Lillard treatment when Dame was in Portland. We're going to blitz him and force him to make the right play every single time. And, hopefully that gets us the win. I don't know if he's would do that, because what would happen with Dame was he'd get tired of just kicking it out and letting the guys make plays, and, they'd be fine. He'd force some stuff. He'd try to start shooting the ball a little more. So I would blitz him. Now, you got to have the right personnel, and, I know that's a pro type of thing, but if you're looking at Marquette, just get the ball out of his hands and live with the results. That's how I would play it against him.
Yeah, I think, too, we saw that in the Purdue game. Purdue threw the kitchen sink at him. They're like, we're going to blitz you. We're going to switch. We're going to try to play you straight up. And he literally made the right play every single time. I mean, there's a reason he got his triple-double in that game. But and speaking of Purdue, what it reminds me a lot of is how dependent Purdue was last year on Zach Edey staying out of foul trouble. Because I think it's the same thing for Marquette this year. And the difference between Purdue and Marquette, not only just that they played two completely different positions, Edey and Jones, but Marquette's a team that gets into you. Marquette's a team that does pressure you, that wants to force turnovers. And so you could set yourself up on some nights for foul trouble. And that's why it's important for Stevie Mitchell. That's why, Chase Ross, right? Like, these guys need to be the point of attack defensively so that, Cam Jones can kind of play center field, can, get more of his steals and his action in passing lanes rather than on ball. Because you just don't want to run the risk of someone, running into you, drawing contact, getting into your body and getting you a second foul with 11 minutes left in the first half and sitting out. Like that's how tenuous I think things are for Marquette. But that being said, Chris, you hit on it right from the beginning. 2 turnovers tonight. And what's so unique about Marquette is not only the turnovers that they create, right? They force 16 turnovers a game. And tonight they forced another 14. And that margin is typically, those teams that play kind of that havoc style, up tempo, take your ball. They also aren't one of the best ball security teams in the country. And that is Marquette. Marquette is that. So they have that margin that they're working with every single game. They're finishing with shots on rim. And when you finish with shots on rim, you give yourself a chance to get 20 offensive rebounds like you did tonight. So that if you shoot 6 for 30, it's not that big of a deal. Because we know we're going to turn you over. We're going to win that margin, and we're going to win the margin on the glass. Like, I mean, the offensive rebounding in general was plus 16 for Marquette tonight. So that style of play allows you to get ahead and stay ahead, one, but it also allows you to climb back into games like they did tonight when Butler jumped on them early. So super impressive, even on a night where Cam Jones, again, like he got some of those buckets late, but he struggled in the first half from the field, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, Mike, if you don't turn it over and you win on the boards like that, chances are you're going to win the basketball game. That's exactly what they got done tonight against the Butler Bulldogs in Big East play. It's Chris Childers with Rob Dauster, John Henson, and the great Mike LaTulip from Illinois. Let's get into another Big East game tonight. Everybody's kind of wondering if Ed Cooley's got this Georgetown team actually kind of good and a factor inside the Big East. They beat Creighton 81-57. They hammered Creighton tonight. There has been, I know Dauster was talking earlier about the fodder online about Ryan Kalkbrenner for Creighton. Creighton falling to 7-5 on the season, 0-1 to start off league play in the Big East. Georgetown now 9-2. They certainly love getting their first win in the Big East out of the gates tonight against Coach McDermott's team. How are we feeling, Rob Dauster, about Georgetown? Are they actually kind of good under Ed Cooley?
I mean, look, they did this without Malik Mack, their starting point guard on the roster. Jaden Epps had an unbelievable game, 5 or 6 from 3. Micah Peavy had one of the most complete stat lines I think I've ever seen in a college basketball game. 20 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, 7 steals. I think 4 of those 7 steals led directly to dunks at the other end of the floor. Georgetown is significantly better. Like I think anybody that has watched them for 5 minutes, it's very easy to see that. You have 2 guards that can create. You have a big guy in Thomas Sorber who hurt his ankle towards the end of that game. Hopefully he ends up being okay. Didn't look like it was all that serious. He walked off on his own. And Micah Peavy's like a big athletic wing. And then if you can kind of surround that core 4 with enough pieces that are just like can do a job, like Jordan Burks, like Drew Fielder, like I think that they have a chance. I don't know if they're tournament good, right? I would say they're probably not tournament good. But they have a chance to make some noise, and I think they're probably going to get like 6 or 7 wins in the Big East this year. What I will say is like this was more eye-opening for me about Creighton than it was for Georgetown, because I mean, without Pop Isaacs and with Fedor Zugic still in eligibility limbo, they just don't have the horses, man. Like Stephen Ashworth is not a point. He is not Baylor Shireman. He is not Trey Alexander. They don't have somebody that can kind of break you down. They don't have somebody that can do anything other than kind of run Greg McDermott's set. They don't have the same kind of defensive pieces. Jemiah Neal is fine, but like he's not good enough to be able to do what they are going to have to ask him to do. Like this team they don't have the weapons that they need. And when you don't have the level of athlete to be able to break something down, you kind of just run your stuff. And if it doesn't work, you're screwed. And usually you're able to get past that because Greg McDermott can run really good stuff. But right now they're basically playing Ryan Kalkbrenner with two guys that are stretch fours together in Mason Miller and Jackson McAndrew. And that's just like, I just don't see how that's going to end up. You got too many big guys, too many slow guys. I just don't know how that works. So the injuries and the ineligibilities have really, I think, impacted this team more than anybody else in college basketball right now. Because they look like they're going to be lucky if they make it to the NIT at this rate with the way that they look tonight.
Yeah, if this was a middle school hallway and Georgetown and Creighton were playing each other, Georgetown would have been suspended. They just bullied them today. They every time you look up, they're punching it on the break, yelling, screaming, ass getting ripped. Like this was about more than basketball. Yes, Creighton, is struggling, but they're not 24 points worse than Georgetown. Come on, man. Like that's just not the case. Georgetown just seized the day with physicality. They were taking the rock, they were dunking, they were out rebound. I mean, it was quite a show from the perspective of just seeing how Georgetown played today. Ed Cooley's kind of imparting that Providence image a little bit onto his team. And I don't care what the stats were today. Georgetown would have beat them in anything, ping pong, pool, swimming, pickleball, whatever you want to call it. That's how they came out. And, Creighton's got to start looking inside themselves and have a little pride.
Well, I'll start with the Big East Conference as a whole. And I think over the years, right, like Georgetown and DePaul have been the two teams where it's like, that may be 4 wins for us, right? Add 4 wins to our ledger throughout Big East Conference play. And I think DePaul has gotten better. We'll see if that reflects in wins this year in conference play. But the hope was that, okay, if Georgetown is going to emerge, right, and get out from like the depths of the Big East,
depths of hell.
You can't have other teams falling into that same spot. Like that can't happen for Creighton, and that can't happen for Seton Hall, because like you're already like the conference already has been hitting a downward trend for fraternity births the last Rob, like 4 or 5 years, right? It was 6, and it was 5, and it was 4. Like it's going in the wrong direction. So you need one of these teams that are towards the bottom to emerge and be a legitimate threat, right? Or at least be like a mid-tier spoiler throughout conference play. And we'll see, like, can that be Georgetown? I thought today, John, you mentioned it, right? Like Creighton just got bullied. And their style of play is what's hurting them the most right now, because they have always played an incredibly soft coverage defensively. And I talked about it before. It leads to not fouling, right? Which is great, but you never turn teams over because you're in like a deep drop. And then when you play against a guy like Jaden Epps, who all he wants to do is create off the bounce, all he wants to do is take 18 footers, all he wants to do is take threes off the bounce. Like if you're going to drop all the way into the paint, like that dude's going to have a field day. So it's something has to change. And like Ashworth, 7 for 17 tonight, 21 points. Like you're going to need him to have 30 a game, and that's just not sustainable. And that's not something that I think is going to be conducive to Creighton winning many games. So it's amazing how where Creighton was to start the season. You get a massive win against Kansas, and then that's it. Like it feels like it's really gone off the rails, and the Pop Isaacs injury doesn't help one bit.
Doesn't help at all. It's derailed things and then some for the Blue Jays. Let's take a break, come back. We'll get into action outside of a big night in the Big East. We'll talk about some other games, including Alabama on the road in a true road game against North Dakota. And it got dicey towards the end. We'll get into it next right here on the Field of 68 After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app.
All right, we're back here on the field of 68 after dark on this Wednesday, getting close to the holidays and basketball getting pretty interesting. We had some fun games tonight. We just dove heavy into a busy night in the Big East. Let's get outside of that conference, talk about some games that happened. Some interesting non-conference games. Alabama on the road. It was kind of weird to see them play in that little tiny gym against North Dakota, but on the road tonight, true road game. Nate Oates, top 10 team, and they were in a tussle against North Dakota, but they find a way to take out the Fighting Sioux, a team that not exactly great in the Summit. They were 4-8 going in. They're now 4-9, but Alabama beats them 97-90 on the road. Grant Nelson and Mark Sears lead the way. Both had 23 points. Grant Nelson was 9 of 14 from the field, was pretty damn efficient. Also added 10 rebounds. It was one of those games where Dauster joked that if the portal was open mid-season, there might be some Fighting Sioux that would get picked off it pretty quick. But for Alabama, credit him for playing this game, Rob, and finding a way to win on the road.
Yeah, it was. I bet Nate Oates, when he was going through the handshake line at the end of the game, he probably whispered in Trace Eaglestaff's ear, $500,000. I'll see you in August. Right? He for sure
got some phone calls tonight. 100%. I don't know if he's got an agent, but I don't know how it works. But 100%, Rob. His hotline is blinging right now.
Yeah, he was awesome, man. He's got a great story too. He's like a North Dakota kid. We saw him at Summit League Media Day. He just drove around the entire state and would go to different high schools and set up open gyms and just work out with all the different high school kids in North Dakota. He really puts on for his state. So I don't even know if they'd be able to get him out of there, man. Like, I think that he really loves it. But obviously the reason they played this game was to give Grant Nelson a homecoming. Grant Nelson's obviously a North Dakota native. I thought it was awesome. He was giving like the bison horns, right? Because he's a North Dakota State guy instead of North Dakota. So every time he made a shot, he was turning around to the North Dakota student section and giving them the horns up. I loved it, man. Like I think that stuff like this is just so cool. And it only happens in college basketball. And you have a top 10 team going on the road to tiny little Grand Forks in this tiny little gym, completely out of the middle of nowhere, and playing a game against a team that gave them a fight, man. This is North Dakota. Let's call it what it is. They're not really all that good. And they could have beat Alabama tonight. I love that Nate Oates played this game. I love that stuff like this happens. Rutgers did it too for Ace Bailey. They went down to Atlanta and played at Kennesaw State before going out to Vegas for the Players Era invitation. I love that they played that game. I want to see more of this stuff, man. I love it. I hope that we don't see this trend end. I'm glad Alabama didn't lose, because this might be the end of the trend if Alabama lost. But I don't think that you could take too much away beyond the fact that like Houston Millett is awesome. Like him, LeBaron Filan, like what they got off the bench from those guys, I thought was really, really impressive and really, really important, because the shooting that we've seen from Alabama this year has not really been up to snuff. So they needed those two guys, Houston Millett and Chris Youngblood specifically. I thought were really good off the bench.
They were fabulous off the bench, no question, John.
Yeah, they just kind of stayed strong. They kind of looked like just a wily veteran team. They didn't really get rattled. They kind of walked North Dakota down a little bit. Just seeing Youngblood out there, he still looks like he's catching up to the speed of the game, but he's going to help them a lot. the guys they have off the bench are I mean, they could probably start, right? Phylon, Millett, Youngblood, Holloway. I mean, they would probably start at 75% of NCAA teams. So for Alabama to have them come off the bench, it's a wealth of riches. And as far as North Dakota, man, I was super impressed. I was on North Dakota today. I looked at Alabama's schedule. I mean, they've been playing heavy hitter after heavy hitter, Creighton, at UNC. Like these guys, this was a sleepy spot for them. I've been in North Dakota. Well, maybe I have, but I've been in South Dakota for sure because we used to play preseason games there. And let me tell you, you're not hyped up riding that bus up the street to the arena out there. I'll tell you that. So glad that Alabama found their energy. But yeah, shout out to Eagle staff and those boys, man. They put the fear of God into them a little bit tonight, man. That was that was a scary spot when they were tied down the stretch, and Sears had to kind of take over a little bit, man, and impose his will.
Yeah, I definitely credit Oates for scheduling the game. I'm not sure it was entirely necessary, but still, like to your point, Rob, it was cool. I was watching the game and I was almost confused at one point because I hadn't seen Nelson do the horns up yet. All I was seeing was the North Dakota fans doing the horns down. I'm like, what? And then it finally dawned on me that it was because of NDSU. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, I get why you did it. And like, we can sit here and kind of play the results and be like, man, that got close. And, why would he schedule that game? But the reality is, like, you were a 25-point favorite. And that's a team that's 300th in KenPom. So, that's a game where really, like, you should have rolled. And what I think was frustrating for me watching it was, yeah, to your point, John, right? You come up, it's sleepy up there in North Dakota. It's freezing. You come out, self-inflicted wounds, turning the ball over, 13 turnovers in the first half. My biggest frustration outside of the defense, right? Like losing track of Eagle staff as much as they did. My frustration was you were dominating in the paint. Like you were getting anything you wanted when you went to the basket. And they continued to settle. They settled in the first half from three. Second half, they were better taking care of the ball. They only had one turnover. But at one point in the second half, midway through the second half, they were 16 for 20 from two. And they finished the game 22 for 29. And so like it was crazy how much they continued to launch. It was like they got like the Eagle staff, it was contagious, right? They were letting it fly, so we're just going to do it too. But you're the team that has the size and the athleticism and should be absolutely owning the paint and going to the free throw line 40 times in that game. Make them foul you. And the fact that they didn't really do that until maybe the last like 6 minutes of the game was just, it was frustrating to watch. And it's why the game was so close.
A win is a win is a win. And Nate Oates got out of there with a W. And this is kind of an Alabama thing. Their softball coach told me this as much. They will go if you come to them and you buy in and you want to be a part of the family, they will take the show on the road to your mom and dad. And I think that's kind of a cool little feature, as Rob pointed out earlier, that they do at Alabama, and I hope it doesn't stop. The biggest game today that happened outside of the Big East was that Jumpman Invitational game between Oklahoma and Michigan. The Jordan Brands looked awfully good, taking on each other, 87-86. Oklahoma, Porter Moser, they stay unbeaten. They're 11-0. They got something pretty fun going on. They win by a point over Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines. Jeremiah Fears, we're going to hear from him in just a little bit, finished with 30 points in this win. Mike, I'll go ahead and just start with you. Oklahoma, pretty sexy. SEC is loaded, and Oklahoma right there in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's another team that is going to, certainly should compete in that league. I mean, we'll probably talk a little bit about it later. I definitely have reservations about Oklahoma. It's a great win tonight. I mean, to be able to pull out that win, and then you look for Michigan too. It's like, you out rebound them. You're +6 on the offensive glass. You win the turnover battle. You're 72% inside the arc, right? You really dominate the paint, and it doesn't matter because they outscored you by 24 from the 3-point line. So, 12 threes to 4 threes. So that ended up, being somewhat of the story. But I thought Jeremiah Fears was just awesome. He was nails at the end, obviously the big shot, but continuing to put pressure on the rim throughout the game. It's, my question for Oklahoma is just going to be the really the front court and at the 5 spot, because there's times where they just look small out there. So having a guy like Fears is great because you can obviously push the pace. But there's going to be nights where like they really need to make shots like they did tonight, because I'm not sure how many times against the top teams in the SEC they're going to win the rebounding battle. So that's going to be imperative for this Oklahoma team. So we'll see. I'm wait and see on them. Again, good win tonight, and you play in an event like this where you're kind of the prime time game. It's always a good flight home when you take care of business.
Yeah, I thought there was I thought this is a game Michigan should have won. Obviously, the 4-point play kind of screwed them a little bit, but Michigan had control for the most part for the whole game. Oklahoma goes on their run. It seems like this Oklahoma team is never out of it, with Fears kind of at the helm. He made some mistakes down the stretch, but he made the biggest shot down the stretch. So, I definitely don't necessarily know how good this Sooners team will be towards the end of the year, but to be 11-0 and coming off a neutral court win against a Michigan team that, with the two big fellas playing that big on big basketball, which obviously I love, Burnett and Donaldson, I actually think this team is going to be a lot better towards the end of the season. I love how they play. Love how they defend. They just didn't hit threes today, man. 4 for 28. Like LaTulip said, is a story of the game. Everything else was their way.
Yeah, look, it's kind of frustrating if you're a Michigan fan at this point, right? Because it was the game. They had this game won. They were up big in the first half. I think they were up 11 in the first half in the second half of this one. They were up by 17 in the first half against Arkansas. I believe they were up by 13 in the first half against Wake Forest, who came back and ended up winning that game. It's a trend, man. That's 3 games on neutral courts against tournament caliber teams that they ended up giving away big leads. And I think part of the problem is when I'm doing air quotes here, point guard is Danny Wolf. Like, he's a little bit turnover prone, and his team overall is a little bit turnover prone. And once they start piling up, like, it just kind of feels like that stuff snowballs, and they don't have that one dude that is really mentally tough that can just say, all right, enough of this shit. We're going to go get an easy bucket and let's find a way to turn this thing around. But shout out to Jeremiah Fears, man. Like, he was incredible tonight. He's been so good this season. I think he's averaging 17 and 5 assists. And in July, he was playing in Peach Jam, guys. Like, 5 months ago, he was planning on getting ready for his senior year in high school. Like, he's a reclass freshman, but he's actually reclassified. Like, he's not one of these guys that was getting ready for his PG year and then decided to reclassify and go into high school or going to college as like an 18, 19-year-old. So him and Cooper Flagg have both been really, really good as reclassified freshmen. It's been fun to see. Where would Oklahoma be without him, Chris? I don't know where they'd be.
They'd be in harm's way, more than likely, is where they would be right now. And I would tell you this, Porter Moser wouldn't be 11-0. Our boy, Jeff Goodman's there. He covered the game tonight. He was at the Jumpman Invitational, saw Oklahoma and Michigan battle it out, and he caught up with Jeremiah, the youngster who had a banner day today, scored over 30 points. Let's hear what Goodman had to get from Jeremiah, the conversation. Here is Goodman's talk with the star for the Sooners.
All right, now here with the hero of the game, Jeremiah Fears. And freshman, you did not look like a freshman, my man. You haven't all year. You hit the big shot tonight, a deep three. Tell me what was going through your mind as you released it. And obviously it was a 4-point play that turned out to be the game winner over Michigan.
Really, it was really for my teammate. And I think they did a great job of just denying him the ball. And coach said if they deny him the ball, then Fears go get the ball and make a play. And I think I did a great job of that. And I think coach really helped with my confidence with just telling me to go make a play if the play breaks down. And I think I did a great job of that. So,
all right, I was talking to your dad earlier. He said you got a big personality. Where's the big personality?
I got you. I do.
You're very quiet now. You're very mellow. He said you're a little crazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's this year been like for you, though? I mean, you come in, you guys are undefeated. Nobody thought you'd be undefeated. I don't think even you thought you'd be undefeated at this point in the season, did you?
No, but things turned out different. I think it's really just the work we put in, and we believe in each other, and just trusting each other before the game. Coach gave us a big speech, and he tried to motivate us, but we was really already motivated because we came into this game like we were the underdogs, and like he said in the speech, he said we were chasing. So we just really chased all of our opponents, and just knowing what we got to lose. We undefeated right now, so we just want to keep that rolling.
I mean, you guys, it looked like you were in trouble. I mean, it really did for a while there, and you hung around long enough. Is it now where you guys have that confidence where, like, in a close game, you guys are going to come out on top because of what you've been able to do? You know, Louisville, Arizona, Providence, now these guys. I mean, those are some pretty good wins.
Yeah, it is. I would say it's confidence as well. Just trusting each other. And like you said, we've been in that position before at the Bahamas. All 3 games was close, and it came down to almost the final shot. I wouldn't say the final shot, but it came down to almost the final shot. So we just know what to do kind of in those situations, and we take a lot of time out of our practice to practice situations like that. So that helped us as well.
So we've talked about this freshman class. It's been awesome so far, like terrific. You know, you hear about Cooper Flagg and some of these other guys. Do you at all feel slighted that you haven't gotten as much publicity as you deserve? Do you care?
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't really pay attention to that. I try to focus on the bigger things like the games and just trying to stay undefeated. Like you said, I'm just trusting my work and trusting our work as the coaching staff. I think they do a great job from game to game and just preparing us and try to help put us in the best situations possible to get another victory. So,
how good has this move been coming to Oklahoma? A lot of people question it. When you decommitted from Illinois and you end up going to Oklahoma, a lot of people, I'm sure you heard it, right? But hasn't it been the perfect situation for you?
yes, it has been a perfect situation, and I just love the coaching staff. When I talked to them before I committed, I thought all of them was great and outgoing, and I think that helped me as well. And when I got here, they was all just willing to work with me and just be by my side every step of the way, and that has helped me in a big way as well. So,
all right, well, listen, great meeting you. Great seeing you. Keep it going. Man, I'll tell you what, you are a killer.
Field of 68, Jeff Goodman talking to Jeremiah Fears of Oklahoma, the youngster who put on a show. And Goodman said, hey, are you mad that you're not getting the publicity? Believe me, they keep winning games like this and he keeps scoring 30 or more. He'll get plenty of publicity in the SEC that will have a spotlight on it the entire season with how incredibly deep that it is. We'll talk more about the SEC a little bit later on, but let's get in, boys, to the Memphis win over Virginia on the road. The Cavaliers now falling to 6-5 on the year, hovering just over 500. Memphis with a big win on the road. They win 64-62. Rob Dauster, the value of the road win for the Tigers is what in your eyes, sir?
I just want to know how come every time Memphis wins, like, where's Goodman on the show? He's got to answer, man. He's been saying that Penny's out. He's been saying that 1 cent's not the guy. I'm gonna read you off the list of wins that Memphis has right now: Missouri at UNLV, San Francisco in San Francisco, UConn, Michigan State, at Clemson, at Virginia. And the craziest part about tonight's game, man, they didn't even shoot well. Like, this has been a team that was shooting better than 44% from three. Like, their whole thing was, we're going to make a whole bunch of threes because we got these two dudes that are on fire, right? Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty. They shot 5 for 23 from three as a team tonight. PJ Haggerty had 27, 5, and 5. He's playing first team all the way. Let me say that again. He is playing first team All-American caliber basketball right now. Tyrese Hunter's been awesome this season. He was not very good tonight, but he's been awesome this season. I think that this Memphis team, look at what they got on the rest of the schedule. They get Ole Miss at home, they get Mississippi State at home, and then they got a whole bunch of teams in the AAC where they are not projected to lose again, according to KenPom. They aren't. They could very realistically head into the NCAA tournament with 3 or 4 losses. Like, this might be a top 3 seed in the dance. That's not a crazy thing to say. And they got the talent to be able to make something happen when they get there. Like, this is the best team that Memphis has had since Penny has been there. And I think that, look, Henson, I think they got a shot, man. Like this is they got 2 stud guards. They can really defend. They got length. They got size. They have athleticism. They got welcome to the danger zone at the 5. I love this Memphis team. I'm all in. Look, I like when Memphis is good. I used to have the pennies. Like when I was a junior in high school, I played them. Remember those gray pennies that they had? I used to play in those. Yeah. I love those shoes. I still have them. Like I never got rid of them. I still have. I love those shoes. But I want Memphis to win because I want Goodman to look like an idiot. I want to see Petty in the Final Four. That's what I want. Well, I want to see Goodman have to answer to his Penny slander face to face. That's what I want. That's what I'm rooting for.
Goodman makes the schedule, so he might be doing that on purpose. I got a funny feeling about that. But
he's
listen, I have a soft spot in my heart for Memphis. It's where 2 of my sisters were born. I don't know if you guys remember Tick Price. I used to go to the Tick Price camp. Mm-hmm. Kelly Wise was my favorite player. So, like I have some Memphis roots and I just love Penny coming back to a city where he's from, a school, and them finally playing well and getting over that hump, per se, of everyone just talking mess, man, and just doubting them. Virginia is a tough place to play. I'll tell you, 10 years or whatever, 13 years ago, it was tough to play, and I'm sure it is now. And then back-to-back true road wins and ACC opponents that are, somewhat upper-tier programs in the ACC is just as impressive. Memphis is going to be a force coming in. They're not projected to lose again. I think the next time we'll see them is probably in the tournament, and we'll see what seed they get and how they do because I think that's the next step. Will Penny have those guys ready? But Virginia, I think, needs to put, on their blackboard, killer instinct, just put it all across the board because they had Memphis on the ropes. They had them on the ropes. They were kind of hesitant to kind of put their foot on the gas. There were some passes, there were some plays that they should have made that could have maybe made this game a 13 to 17-point game, which would have been all the difference as they only won by 2 tonight. So I was more so disappointed. Memphis didn't play great, but Virginia had them on the ropes, and they made some dumb fouls. The technical, the 4-point possession. Virginia's been frustrating me, man, because they're a good team to me. Obviously, they're not who they used to be, but they are a good team. But they let teams get back in it. I mean, Rob, you're singing their praises.
No, they're not.
On the ropes. But Rob, you're singing their praises, but Virginia's had them on the ropes, double digits. Is Memphis that bad or is Virginia that good? You know what I'm saying? If you're they could have beat these guys. Memphis had to come back. They had to hit some big threes. Tyrese Hunter is 2 for 8. Virginia could have won this game. Let's say could have won this game. I don't want to, but Memphis, shout out to them, just being resilient, back-to-back road games in the ACC. I have nothing but good things to say. They're going to be a top 3 seed coming into the tournament, and that'll be their next step.
Virginia needs to write on the mirror. What Virginia needs to write on the mirror is Tony Bennett, we miss you, come back.
Yeah, if you watch the game, man, it was like they were up 10 points, and they were just hesitating to hit the open guy. Oh, is that too fast? Oh, shot clock's not under 10 seconds. Let me just pull it back out. That was frustrating. Virginia had a chance to win this game, and when you let a killer like PJ Haggerty start feeling himself, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Goodman pays again. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do a quick round of fact or fiction, then finish up with our toast of the evening on the Field of 68 after dark on this Wednesday.
Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right, we're back here at Field of 68 after dark, final segment of the evening on this Wednesday. Busy night of basketball. We had a fun night in the Big East. We had that Oklahoma-Michigan game, Alabama on the road against North Dakota. Certainly gave us something to chew on. Let's finish up with some fact or fiction. Let's get some opinions as we're getting closer to Christmas, closer to an important benchmark of the season. Let's get into it. John, I know you might need some earmuffs on this one, but last night, North Carolina loses again. They fell to 6-5 on the season. I don't know if they have enough quality opponents in the ACC to bolster their resume. They kind of needed to take advantage of the non-conference. Mike, I'm going to start with you, Mike LaTulip. North Carolina at 6-5. Are they or aren't they an NCAA tournament team? Fact or fiction?
They are an NCAA tournament team. Fact. But I do want to mention something real quick because I when you watch them, there's something that concerns me. And people talk about, hey, they don't get off to great starts. And look, when you're playing Kansas, when you're playing Auburn, when you're playing Bama, I mean, what do you want? Like those teams are better than North Carolina. So it's you just want to be leading every single game from start to finish. It's not realistic. So my main issue with them right now, and we'll see if they can get this rectified, is in addition to there's a lot of talk about the front court, all that, but I've seen teams over the years that have the type of psychology that North Carolina has. And right now, they need the game to tell them what to do and how to play. And the easiest way I can describe that is when they get down, now it's very clear cut what needs to happen. Okay, we're down. We got to start pressuring. We got to start playing with a little more freedom, play more free of mind offensively, start making more shots like this. They are playing on the other team's terms. And John, I'll mix you in here because I want to go back to your 2012 team, right? Your 2011-2012 team, 32 wins. Okay, if you guys took care of the ball, played with pace, and rebounded, what usually happened?
We won.
Yeah, you won.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So my point is with Carolina, they are playing on other teams' terms. We get back into the game against Florida when Florida starts getting casual with the ball. Like everything that they are doing is predicated on what the other team has to not do. And that's you're at a disadvantage every single game when that happens. So they need to fix that. I just think mentally, like you need to start being the initiators, being assertive from the tip. And I think when that changes, they can go on a run in the ACC. They can. Like there's so many winnable games there. And can you get to that 20 win mark overall? Can you get a couple more in the ACC tournament? Because if they get to 21, 22 wins, I think they'll be in. They'll be in the tournament.
Yeah, I think you have a great point. It's almost like they start playing Carolina basketball when they're down, right? Playing fast, sharing the ball, shooting good shots, defending, deflection. So you're just not used to Carolina not imposing their style of play. I was there a long time ago. I'm a dinosaur, but we knew that we wanted to run, and we wanted to run you out of the gym. There would literally be games where we'd look over to the side and 3 or 4 guys on the team would be cramping, right? Like, so that's something that is interesting, an interesting point that you brought up, man, that I didn't even think about, man. That's a great point that they need to start playing to their how they want to play, not to how the other team makes them play. So the ACC is down this year, so they are going to have some opportunities to stack up some wins. But as a team, man, they can't have any more letdowns. They can't have any more mistakes. They can't have any more bad losses. So it's going to be tough from here on out. And they're probably going to have to take care of Duke or Clemson or Pittsburgh on the road maybe, or beat those guys, beat 2 or 3 of those teams for them to, be a lock in the NCAA tournament and not being maybe the first 4 or something like that.
Yeah, well, look, they're 6-5, right? 4 of their 5 losses are to KenPom top 10 teams, and their bad loss is to Michigan State, who is number 18 in KenPom, and I believe number 22 in the AP. But they have no bad losses, man, and they also beat Dayton. They are going to be fine because what's going to happen is they're going to end up winning like 15 games in the ACC because the ACC, like outside of Duke and Clemson, everybody is very beatable, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to go to the selection committee. You got 12 human beings in a room that are going to look at all this stuff, and they're going to see the name North Carolina, and they're going to have them, if they're on the bubble, they're not going to leave them out because it's North Carolina. There's 12 human beings in that room making a decision, and you're telling me all of these basketball people are going to look at that name North Carolina and leave them out? No, not going to happen. They're dancing.
Yeah, no way in hell at that point it's going to happen. We're playing fact or fiction here. The SEC has been completely dominant. We saw Oklahoma with a win tonight out of conference against Michigan. They're undefeated. The league is deep. In 2011, the Big East had 11 bids, fact or fiction. Rob Dauster, the SEC will have the most NCAA tournament bids ever.
Fact. Yeah, I think they will. I think they're going to get 12 teams in. What's their overall record now? 155-20, right? It's ridiculous what they've been able to do this year. Ridiculous. There's no Pac-12, so that takes away like 4 or 5 at-larges that are going to have to get spread out. It's not like some of these other conferences have been utterly dominant, right? The Big East looks like it might be 3 or 4 bids. ACC, we're talking about how many bids are they? If we're talking about North Carolina and whether or not they're going to be in the NCAA tournament, right? Like that might be the 3rd best team in the ACC. The SEC is going to get 12 bids. It's going to happen. It is. Sorry.
Yeah, 16 teams in the KenPom top 66. That tracks.
Mike?
So are you, John, are you fact?
He's facting.
I'm simple.
Yeah,
I'm simple. It's the numbers say that even if right now they've got 16 teams in the top 66. So right, field of 68. You know what I'm saying? I think they'll get 12 for sure.
It's good math. I'm fiction. And I'm fiction, and I'm saying that right now. Like only one team in the SEC has 3 overall losses or more on the season. Everyone else is 2-1 or 0. But the reason I'm saying that is because, like, I look at 9 teams: Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Bama, Kentucky A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Like those are 9 I feel good about. And then there's 3 that I'm wait and see. I mean, Oklahoma did themselves some favors tonight, so maybe you could put them in as a 10th. But Georgia and Texas, like
11-0.
I'm saying as the 10th team, that I'm talking about.
They've got to be kind of a lock right now.
But this is my point. Who is fooling us? Because it happens every year.
Yeah, you're right.
Georgia, Oklahoma started 10-0 last year, and then they went on to go 10-12 the rest of the season. Right? Georgia was 12-3 last year, and then they went off the rails. Texas was 12-3 last year, and then went 500 in Big 12 play, which obviously isn't bad. They finished middle of the pack. But when you look at the SEC right now, there are a number of teams that are fooling us, and it's just figuring out which ones they are, because it always, like, the strength of this conference. Like the other thing that I'll mention really quick is when we talk about like who gets in the tournament, who wins the SEC. Schedule's important. Who plays who and who plays who twice? Because there's 16 teams in the league, so you're going to play 15 other teams. There's 18 total games. You're going to play 3 teams twice. So when I look at let's look at Auburn, for example. They play Bama twice. They play Ole Miss twice. They play Georgia twice. Bama obviously plays Auburn twice. They play Kentucky twice. Tennessee plays Florida twice, plays Kentucky twice. Like all those teams at the top, it's going to be a massacre at the top. And then the way they do these the teams basically regionally for the doubles. You got Texas and Oklahoma who come into the league. Oklahoma's got A&M, Texas, and Missouri twice. Doesn't have to play Auburn twice. Doesn't have to play Kentucky twice. Tennessee, Florida, Bama, none of them. So that all factors in as well. And so I'm still going fiction because I think there's going to be carnage in this league throughout the season. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have to get some of these teams are going to have to find a way to get to the 20 win mark. Cause I just think, a 17, 18 win team, like can an 18 win team from the SEC get into the NCAA tournament? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, I think that they can, because every single road game that you're going to play is going to be a quad 1 opponent. And every single home game that you play is going to be a quad 2 game at minimum. Sometimes it's going to be a quad 1. And they're just going to stack up these ridiculous resumes. And I think that we're going to end up looking at it, and it's going to be like, all right, well, we got Missouri here who beat Kansas, right? And they have 7 wins in the SEC, but they happen to beat this one team at home. They beat like Alabama at home, and then they have all of these other wins over some of these teams, and they have no bad losses. And you're just going to look at it and say, is it going to be them, or is it going to be the 4th place team out of the Mountain West? And I think we're just going to end up going with Missouri when it comes to that part of the conversation. I think there's going to be so many quality wins for these teams on their resume. And who's going to fall off? LSU. LSU's a fraud. There you go.
Yeah, again, it's somebody. And look, I think the Big East and ACC play a big role in this whole conversation too. Like, how many can they get in? Because if they're only going to get 3 or 4 from their conference, that's going to open up even more bids for these SEC teams.
Mm-hmm. All right. Last bit of fact or fiction quickly before we call it a night and go to bed and get ready for another big day of basketball tomorrow in the Big Ten. 9 teams right now. Fact or fiction that can realistically win the league. Mike, start with you with that Illinois jersey over your shoulder.
All caps fiction. All caps. I mean, I think right now, and this league is wide open, right? Don't get me wrong, but once you get past UCLA, Michigan, maybe like Michigan and Michigan State are the 2 that I'm like, I don't know. I think partly their style of play, they're both really well coached. They're going to be ahead of some teams that are going to probably pass them as the season goes on. So I think it's realistically Purdue's going to be in the mix. Oregon's going to be in the mix. UCLA is going to be in the mix. Illinois is going to be in the mix. And honestly, like Maryland's going to be in the mix. I really do. And that's kind of where I draw the line. Like for me, it's really 5 or 6 teams that can realistically do it. I don't see it with Indiana. I don't see it with Ohio State. I don't see it with Penn State. And then I just mentioned, right, like Michigan State are 2 other ones that I can't see either of them winning the conference.
I don't think anyone can win this league. Is that a hot take? Like I look at it and there's not a single team where I look at, I'm like, yeah, you know what? They're going to win the Big Ten. They're good. Like that, they have set themselves apart from everybody else. UCLA's guards have regressed. Michigan State is shooting 18% from 3. Like I'm pretty sure we could suit up Henson right now and go start him at the 3, and he'd be the best 3-point shooter that Michigan State's got on the roster. Michigan can't stop turning the ball over and blowing double-digit leads. Maryland, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. Illinois is the one that maybe you can buy into because they got the most talent, but like Will Richards, a reclassified freshman who weighs 173 pounds, and KJ just got chewed up by Jemai Mashak. So like, I kind of want to see them go through a league schedule. He did a little bit. Jemai Mashak kind of had him in his back pocket. I know he had the 4-point plays, but he also had 7 turnovers and an L. Oregon, I'm not buying into Oregon. I really like Oregon, but Jackson Shell said it's not.
Wow, you've taken a turn. You've taken a turn on Oregon.
Purdue just is getting beat up physically. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think anybody in this league. But my point
someone's got to win it.
I think what's going to happen
four-way tie at 13 and 7 at 13 and 7.
No, there's definitely going to be.
That's what's going to be.
There's going to be
like a 6-way tie.
Yeah, it's going to be like a sketchy, like 4-way tie. Like it's going to be all types of stipulations towards the end. I can see that already.
Yeah,
I'm already pissing myself off.
We're going to go so far down. Yeah, we're going to go so far down in the tiebreaker list. It's going to be like, who has the highest free throw percentage in road games against top 75 opponents on Ken Pom. That's where we're going to end up with the tiebreaker here, trying to figure out seeding for the Big Ten tournament.
All right,
To me,
boys,
shit show.
let's finish up. Toast
Yeah,
of the evening to take it home. I will start first. I'm going to go toast to Nate Oates. I think playing that game tonight on the road was kind of cool. An ode to Grant Nelson, who is from Devil's Lake, North Dakota, got to play in front of his friends and family in a game they easily could have lost, but he had the guts to do it. Alabama's kind of made that a thing in a toast. That's a gutsy thing, and not every coach has the guts to pull that off. So way to go, Nate Oates. Toast to you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mike.
I might be stealing one here, but Tracy Eaglestaff, he's my toast tonight. 40 ball on Bama. I mean, I'd say like he kind of had his March moment in December, because I don't think North Dakota is gonna dance this year. So it was great to see. I don't know if it's like a get ready to learn Fred Hoiberg buddy situation for Eaglestaff. I know he's got some years left, but man, that was cool to see. It truly felt like a tournament game where you have a guy you really haven't heard of, or at least for me, I know Rob, you knew about him, but to see him have a game like that, that's one he's going to remember for a long time.
He made some money today. Let's call it like it is. He made some.
Yes, he did.
I'm gonna go with Micah Peavy with the baby quadruple double: 28 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 steals. Hell of a game. Might be a little coming out party for Georgetown. We will see. Are they contenders or pretenders? We don't know. Cheers.
Cheers to that. I got two toasts. My first toast of the night is going to go to Donovan Dent, point guard at New Mexico, on the field of 68. He went for a career high 40 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, in a win that New Mexico really needed against a VCU team that has looked like one of the best teams in the A-10. I think Dayton's probably the best team in the A-10, but VCU is right there. And my other one's going to go to Doug Gottlieb, man. Everybody's dragging my guy for taking a quote completely out of context. There is no way that he tried to call that Michigan Tech team nobody you. If you go back and look at what he said, he's talking about why he wants to schedule harder and why he wants to have the non-conference schedule that they put together. Everyone's conflating the nobody you comment with Michigan Tech. That is not what he meant. And ESPN did him dirty, man. They had him as the third headline on the ESPN app all day today. And I think it's because he tried to drag Adam Schefter, and Schefter kind of burned him yesterday. Schefter got him. Schefter's up 1-0 in that battle, but man, they did him dirty today. I got Gottlieb's back.
Who's nobody you though? If it wasn't Michigan Tech, he said, "Oh, I wasn't talking about Michigan Tech. I was talking about some other teams that are higher rated."
So he was talking about scheduling, and he's saying, "I want to have a difficult schedule. I want to be able to bring good teams in here, and I want to be able to go play people. I don't want to be playing nobody you every single game." Like, he was talking about scheduling overall. He wasn't talking about Michigan Tech, and now everyone is kind of conflating him. And they did my boy dirty.
I think his overall point.
What's Michigan Tech?
Good. I was just saying his overall point is
1-0 against Green Bay this season.
Okay. It was Green Bay.
His overall point is fair.
Yeah,
I'm just saying his overall point is fair, but like it's the choice of nobody you. Like it's that phrase, and I think that's what got him in trouble. I think most people who don't have something out for Doug understood that, the context there. I think most people did. But like it became an easy target because of that phrase.
Who is nobody you? Somebody gonna say something, or are we just gonna ignore it? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Nobody you right now is North Carolina.
Nobody should be called
nobody right now
is
North Carolina.
He didn't say nobody. He didn't say nobody Tech.
Right.
Got him. There you go. You got it. There you go. I will say this: nobody you is the one team that I believe that can actually win the Big Ten this year.
There you go. Exactly. Okay. Mark it down.
Okay. What is nobody you? That's all I want to know. Like, we should ask him. Okay, cool. We understand it took him this kind. So nobody you. Give me an example. Let's see what he says.
Well, we'll press him next time we talk to him. That's gonna wrap it up. Want to thank Rob Dauster, Mike LaTulip, and John Henson. I am Chris Childers, and a toast to all you for watching. Thanks for checking us out here on the Field of 68 After Dark.
I got to get back out, Henson. I got to get back out there.
I'm going tomorrow morning early. I'm going tomorrow morning.